Tonight, as Israel promises more aid in Gaza,
Fourth major obstacle to peace is Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu.
American lawmakers debate what the region should look like after the war. Plus,
China is right now in a state of turmoil.
The internal threats sending China into what some say is a social and financial freefall. And Haitian immigrants seeking a better life next door become victims.
When the police come, we just have to run away.
All this and more tonight on Faith Nation.
America's highest-ranking Jewish lawmaker calls on Israel to hold new elections. Good evening, I'm Jenna Browder.
And in Washington, I'm John Jessup. Welcome to Faith Nation. Well, silent no more, the leader of the United States Senate, Chuck Schumer, declaring his view represents the majority of mainstream Jewish Americans, saying today Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has lost his way in the wake of the October 7th Hamas terrorist attack. The speech comes as more Democrats urge the Biden administration to step up public pressure of Israel.
Specifically when it comes to the civilian death toll in Gaza and the humanitarian crisis on the ground. Schumer's comments are being met with sharp criticism from Republicans, including Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell. National security correspondent Caitlin Bird has tonight's top story. Caitlin?
John, Jenna, this is the harshest criticism of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu that we've heard from a high-ranking U.S. official. But Majority Leader Schumer says he believes Israel must change course if it wants a safe and prosperous future.
Prime Minister Netanyahu has lost his way by allowing his political survival to take the precedence over the best interests of Israel.
Schumer says Netanyahu has put himself in a coalition with far-right extremists and as a result has been too willing to tolerate the toll of the war on civilians in Gaza.
Israel cannot survive if it becomes a pariah.
The top Republican in the Senate, Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, immediately rebuked Schumer's remarks, calling it foreign interference to suggest the removal of a democratically elected leader.
Israel is not a colony of America, whose leaders serve at the pleasure of the party in power in Washington.
Schumer's comments came as part of a larger speech about how to move forward after the war.
The only real and sustainable solution to this decades-old conflict is a negotiated two-state solution, a demilitarized Palestinian state living side by side with Israel.
But the majority leader said this can never happen unless four key obstacles are removed.
Hamas and the Palestinians who support and tolerate their evil ways, radical right-wing Israelis in government and society, President Abbas, Prime Minister Netanyahu. These are the four obstacles to peace.
McConnell, however, pushed back against those claims as well.
The primary obstacles to peace in Israel's region are genocidal terrorists like Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad, who slaughter innocent people and corrupt leaders of the Palestinian Authority who have repeatedly rejected peace deals from multiple Israeli governments.
Still, some Democrats on the Hill are urging the Biden administration to withhold military aid to Israel if it continues to block humanitarian assistance into Gaza. The U.S. and other countries have been airdropping food into northern Gaza in recent weeks in an attempt to help alleviate the crisis there. But aid groups say it's not as effective as bringing food in by truck. In an interview with CBN News, Senator Chris Coons says the U.S. has two core concerns right now: support for Israel and protection of Palestinian civilians.
I support Israel's right of self-defense, its obligation to defend itself against Hamas and to go into Rafah and to clean out the remaining Hamas military elements. But they cannot do that without first allowing innocent civilians a chance to pass through checkpoints and to relocate to the center or north of Gaza.
Despite U.S. opposition, Israel does seem to be moving forward with the military campaign in Rafah. But the IDF says it is creating humanitarian islands in the middle of Gaza where displaced Palestinians can go for refuge. John, Jenna?
All right, CBN's Caitlin Burke. Thank you so much, Caitlin. Well, the Senate is also navigating a potential roadblock from TikTok after the company's CEO made a direct appeal to Americans on the popular social media app. It is an effort to reverse course just one day after the House passed a bill to require TikTok's Chinese owner, ByteDance, to sell the platform or face a total ban in the U.S.
We will not stop fighting and advocating for you. We will continue to do all we can, including exercising our legal rights, to protect this amazing platform that we have built with you.
It is unclear if the measure will move forward in the Senate. So far, Majority Leader Schumer has been non-committal on bringing the legislation to the full Senate floor.
To the 2024 race for the White House, both Joe Biden and Donald Trump have shored up enough delegates to become their party's presumptive nominees, setting the stage for a 2020 rematch.
And gearing up for the full swing of the election cycle, Vice President Kamala Harris made history today, visiting an abortion clinic to show the Democratic Party's commitment to making this a key election issue.
CBN News White House correspondent Abigail Robertson joins us with more. Abigail?
Well, Jenna, the battle for the swing states is on, with Trump and Biden campaigning in competitive states, trying to shore up support not just from independents, but hesitant members of their own parties.
Regulate guns, not women.
Trump is juggling a full campaign schedule with frequent court appearances, like Thursday's hearing in Florida over his handling of classified documents. Trump is accused of intentionally taking highly classified documents and storing them at his personal properties, but Trump's lawyers argue the former president had the authority to take the documents. Nathan Gonzalez from Inside Elections tells CBN News, even with the same candidates, it's a very different race.
Both Biden and Trump come to this race with significantly more liabilities than what they had almost 4 years ago. There's a lot of volatility in this race that we still have to wait and see what happens.
Gonzalez says it will be crucial for both candidates to win over defectors in their own parties in order to win the general election.
Trump can't afford to lose hardly any Republicans in a close race. And even though there were voters who voted for Nikki Haley and have said that they are skeptical about voting for Trump, I expect the vast majority of Republicans to support Trump when we get to November. It may not be because they like him, but it's because they don't want Biden to have a second term.
In a first for a sitting president or vice president, Kamala Harris toured a Minnesota abortion clinic.
What we want is to put back in place the protections that the Supreme Court took away, which is to codify, put into law, the protections of Roe v. Wade. That's what we want.
Gonzalez says the historic visit shows Democrats' commitment to the issue they believe will help them win in 2024.
Democrats are going to talk about abortion access as a key plank in this election. It motivates Democratic voters, and it could help with independent voters.
The 2024 election could be decided by an emerging voting bloc known as the double haters, which refers to people who don't like either candidate. Polls show this group makes up nearly 20% of voters nationwide, and who they ultimately break for could be our next president. John, Jenna.
All right, White House correspondent Abigail Robertson, thank you very much. And here with us now is Sue Swayze-Liebel with Susan B. Anthony, Pro-Life America. Sue, welcome. So abortion looking to be a cornerstone issue for the Biden campaign. What did you make of Vice President Harris visiting an abortion clinic today?
Well, this trip is the first for a sitting vice president of the United States of America. But then Kamala Harris has spent her whole career in the pocket of big abortion. When she was Attorney General of California, and the journalist exposed the Planned Parenthood videos of selling baby body parts, she prosecuted the whistleblowers instead of Planned Parenthood. And more recently, when the 5 dead babies were found in a box in Washington, D.C., likely in possible federal abortion crimes, the Biden-Harris Justice Department put the advocate in jail and has not started an investigation. So we know who their opinions, we know who their base is. And in Minnesota, of course, Planned Parenthood does about 70% of all the abortions there. There aren't very many protections in that state. So she's going to see her base today to talk about abortion. Unfortunately, you were talking earlier about polling shows that even pro-choice Democrats, though, do not approve of the extreme agenda that the Biden-Harris administration has, which is abortion up until way later in pregnancy, up until the moment of birth, really. Also, that our taxpayers would pay, our tax dollars would pay for that. So those poll very well. She thinks she's speaking to her base, but some of her ideas are so extreme that even pro-choice Democrats don't support them.
Sue, the abortion battle has been going on for decades. How much do you think the 2024 presidential election will impact the overall pro-life fight?
I think it's critical. We see how it's shaping up now, and it could not be more clear of a radical abortion agenda versus a pro-life agenda that also seeks to serve women, strengthen families, and help our communities embrace life. Unfortunately, Planned Parenthood does not do that. That is not their mission. They do very little services that support women, but instead, like I said, they do 70% of the abortions. Unfortunately, under Democratic administrations, what people need to realize is that their brazen attempts to skirt the law don't go unnoticed. For example, just a couple of weeks ago in Missouri, Attorney General there, Andrew Bailey, filed a lawsuit against Planned Parenthood for trafficking minors out of state to get abortion without their parents' consent. That was also caught on video where Planned Parenthood said, "We never tell the parents anything. We consider her an adult," and that girl was 13 years old. And so the difference is so clear. And I'm guessing that Kamala Harris did not ask about these sorts of things, screening for coercion of young girls, dangerous drugs, trafficking minors. I bet she's not talking about that in Minnesota today.
That's going to have to be the final word. Sue Liebel of SBA Pro-Life America, thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Thanks for having me.
All right, coming up, a new standard for pastors. Evangelical leaders unveil a plan to keep churches healthy. Details next on Faith Nation. Welcome back. One evangelical organization is raising the bar for Christian leaders across the country. The Evangelical Council for Financial Accountability just released a new standard for ministries who rely on it for accreditation. The ECFA will require churches and Christian organizations to prioritize the health and integrity of their leaders. That includes setting biblical standards for character and helping leaders take care of their mental, physical, and spiritual well-being. The goal is to help pastors keep their ministries healthy. The move comes after the council found that 94% of its members were concerned that leadership failures were hurting their spiritual communities. All right, Michael Martin is the president and CEO of the ECFA and joins us now for more. Michael, welcome. So what are some of the needs you're seeing in Christian leaders that prompted you to develop this leadership standard?
Well, thank you. It's great to be with you and to get to share about this new standard that was inspired by ECFA members. So here at ECFA, everything that we do is about enhancing trust. We serve Christian ministries and donors, and it's all about enhancing trust. And so several years ago, as we were starting to hear more concerns from Christian ministries and also the donor community and saying, you know what, we're seeing some of these challenges that are happening in the leadership space, and not always say the integrity failures and some of those tragedies that we hear about in the news, but also leaders who are burning out and who are considering dropping out of ministry in record numbers, and just the impact of those challenges in leadership, the impact on trust. And so we began to hear that from Christian ministries and donors. And so the ECFA board, it was no knee-jerk reaction or immediately rolling out the standard, but began to do this research as well and asking questions of the ECFA membership and saying, based on these challenges that we're seeing, 94% of ECFA member organizations were saying, you know what, these integrity failures are having a negative impact on trust. And if ECFA's mission is all about enhancing trust, is there anything that we can do, given ECFA's unique role in the body of Christ, to help support healthy leadership?
So, Michael, along those lines, how does the leadership standard work? What exactly does it do to encourage or promote leadership integrity? That's right. Well, we say here, that ministry
it's a marathon and not a sprint, and no leader should have to run it alone. And that's really the spirit of this standard. It is not to at all take away that individual responsibility that we know leaders bear for their own individual health and their integrity. That's a given. But for too long, too many leaders have run that race in isolation. And as we continue to do research amongst the ECFA membership, it became very clear, and also building on even previous standards that ECFA has had in the area of governance throughout our history, that, you know what, ministry boards also have a unique role and a responsibility to play in this context of ministry governance and Christ-centered governance to help make sure that leaders are operating in health and integrity. So really this standard is about the boards of ECFA member organizations coming alongside their leaders, helping offer that level of proactive care and support for their integrity in two very practical ways. You know, first of all, establishing those biblical character expectations for leaders, but also engaging in regular conversations around care for the leader. And given, you know, the leader's unique season in ministry, whatever challenges they may be facing, how can the board come alongside to help support?
All right, Michael, we are out of time. The ECFA's Michael Martin, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you. It's great to be with you.
Haitian migrants flee their country looking for safety, only to find themselves exploited and abused. Up next, how Christians are shining a light in the darkness.
Welcome back. Thousands of Americans, including some missionaries, are trapped in Haiti as the nation descends further into violence and chaos. The United States sent a team of Marines into Port-au-Prince to help secure the American embassy. Powerful gangs have seized control of Haiti, forcing the Prime Minister to pledge his resignation. Haiti's international airport has been shut down, leaving few options for Americans trapped inside.
Every day I wake up thinking, Lord, please send us a chopper. Please send us an airplane that's going to come and rescue us today.
The United States and Caribbean leaders are working to help create a transitional government.
Well, right next door to Haiti, the Dominican Republic is the most popular destination in the Caribbean. Travel trends show it's surpassing pre-pandemic visitor levels.
The tourism boom has, in turn, led to a spike in one of the country's biggest industries, sex trafficking. And as Chuck Holton reports, the most vulnerable victims are migrants from Haiti.
The Dominican Republic has an immigration issue. Conditions in Haiti have led to an increase in border crossings, and today, Haitians make up 25% of the DR population. We drove to a remote border crossing to get a sense of the problem.
This barrier between Haiti and the Dominican Republic is something the Dominicans call their version of the Trump wall. It was put here starting in 2019 to keep this flood of Haitians from coming into their country because it's been so expensive for them. But it's an ongoing problem, and they have to have soldiers out here in order to guard this fence as well, because otherwise people will cut right through it or jump right over it.
Haitians live in bateys, the poorest slums. Many work on sugarcane farms, one of this tropical country's biggest industries. It's hot, hard, and low-paying.
When the police come, we just have to run away.
The government is rounding up and deporting Haitians without the proper documents. Last year, authorities sent a record 162,000 Haitians back to their country.
We have nowhere to turn when people take advantage of us, or even if someone robs us. Finding a job is very tough. We have to look after ourselves.
There are an estimated 2 million undocumented Haitians in the DR, but this issue is complicated.
This is one of the poorest neighborhoods in Santo Domingo and is completely full of Haitians. But as a matter of fact, many of the people that live here were born in the Dominican Republic. But because they're of Haitian descent, they can't automatically get citizenship in DR, and they don't have citizenship in Haiti either. And so they don't have papers for either country, and that leaves them in sort of a legal gray area that makes it very difficult for them to make a living.
Working under the table is often the only option, and many do so by serving the tourists who visit these white sand beaches each year. Unfortunately, foreign money combined with desperate poverty make the Dominican Republic a global hotspot for sex tourism, and over 20% of girls here are pregnant by age 18.
There's so many of these families put their young girls out into prostitution or just make a little bit of money because it's so difficult. And then the girls wind up getting pregnant. And so you got moms that are sometimes only 12 years old, 13, 14, and then they have an extra mouth to feed, so they kind of get kicked out.
Parakaleo Ministries is building this home for single moms right in the middle of the Batey outside Santo Domingo.
So bring them in and try and help them have a safe place and also train them for some life skills, so where they can get some work and so on too.
Pastor Simon oversees the program and leads the small church they started on the roof of this building.
Prostitution is a big problem in Dominican Republic. People like 12 years cross early, so we make this program for help them in this situation.
Fluent in Haitian, Spanish, and English, Pastor Simon does his best to help the members of this community better their lives without resorting to selling their bodies.
La Casa El Roy is a new program he has for the young people, especially the ladies, family education, and social education for them.
However, as long as tourists are willing to spend money in the Dominican Republic in search of forbidden fruit, it will remain an uphill battle. From Santo Domingo, I'm Chuck Holton for CBN News.
Finally tonight, as prom season approaches, a nonprofit in North Carolina is empowering girls by helping them find their dream dresses.
The project, focusing on young women in high school, started by one of its own. Back in 2015, high school senior named Jordan combined her love of clothes and her experience in foster care for a class project. That first year, she collected and donated about, get this, 75 prom dresses. In 2020, Jordan's project became an official nonprofit known as the Hope Chest. Jordan's mom, Jennifer, says finding the perfect prom dress helps give girls a sense of belonging.
So being able to give back to the community and actually empower these girls and make them feel good about themselves, it's just what makes it great.
With prom season just around the corner, the Hope Chest will be holding a massive gown giveaway in just over a week. And not just making the girls feel good, but they also look great.
Oh, and that looks like just a fun experience, too.
Absolutely.
Great. Good for her. All right, that's going to do it for Faith Nation.
Have a great night. See you tomorrow.